The Boulder City Sports Network is sponsored by Superior Builders, Inc. of Nevada, building spec residential and commercial with our investment partners for nearly 20 years. Contact Aaron at sbinevada.com for more information. And the I&I Music and Podcast Studio. If you're interested in using the studio, you can contact Dawn at iandimusic.studio. And EV Park, revenue-generating charging stations for apartments, hotels, offices, and short-term rentals. Contact sales at evpark.com to find out how your property can generate a new income stream.
Okay, welcome back, Boulder City Eagle Nation, to the BCSN Sports Show. We are live in the studio again, live on YouTube with Coach Bubba. Welcome back.
Hello, hello.
And we are looking forward to a great show tonight. We're going to talk about last week's senior game, home game, tough, close, hard-fought battle. We'll go through some stats on that. We're going to talk again about the Boulder City football program and kind of what you're building long-term. I want to dig more into that. And, of course, we're going to preview this week's game against Democracy Prep. Mm-hmm. And we'll also talk Pee-wees because they finished their season as well.
Yep.
And
well, we got one more game.
That's true. That's true.
Close enough. Finish the regular season.
Yep, that's right. All right, so we're back. We last week played our senior night. We lost to Pahrump Valley 14-6. The Eagles fought hard, very defensive matchup, almost like a baseball score. We had a couple interceptions. Wyatt Lemming and Noah Lund each had interceptions, I believe. The defense held the Trojans to their lowest league total in weeks. Our offense struggled a little bit to finish drives, but our boys fought hard. It was a chippy game. There was all sorts of shenanigans out there. Let's get into it.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that's kind of been set into place and set into motion from years ago. That we play Pahrump the last game of the year because that's the rivalry. When we get all worked up about Moapa and Virgin and stuff like that, but like that real rivalry is Pahrump. And I love that. You finish the game, finish the year with them every year. And it's a fun game. It's usually pretty evenly matched, and the kids get after it.
Yeah. What a battle. What a defensive battle. I mean, how did we only put up 6?
We moved the ball well, and when we got down into the red zone, we just kind of struggled. We couldn't finish drives. We had an interception down on the first drive, right in the goal line, and that's a play that, we kind of run it, and we got Gavin coming across the side, and we've talked about it a bunch, that you get him in the back of the end zone, get the ball up high, kind of he catches it or nobody catches it, and that's what we tried to do. It just didn't get it up high enough, and, we didn't get what we needed out of that, and that happens. That was on third down, and had we just been an incomplete pass, we would have kicked a field goal because you guys saw that Cash is back, and Cash can kick, and then we had, I want to say, 3 other opportunities kind of inside, within scoring range. And even on that first drive, too, we dropped a ball in the end zone. We dropped 2 going the other way, on different drives that we just couldn't finish it up,
Yeah, that ball in the end zone, it was towards the back of the end zone now that you mention it, so I see what you're saying there. And it was really a 50-50 ball.
Yeah. And that's what we've said, that's kind of been Gavin's thing. Like, if we can get it up to him, go make a play. Yeah. And I'm fine with us doing that. I wish the ball was a little bit higher, but it was, when you're talking about it and come to the sideline, like that was the intention. And all right, we missed by a little bit,
Yep. And there was a very key interception at the end of the first half.
Yes, huge by Wyatt.
Tell me what happened there.
No, it was, I think it was 5 seconds left to go in the half. It might have been 4th down too, I think.
I think it was.
It was third or fourth. And, we kind of, the Renders got the defense together and were very clear on like what we needed to do. And I remember like right before the ball was snapped, people yelling at Lemming to like stay home and be in your spot. And their kid rolled out, and Cartier got through, and I think it was him. I'm pretty sure it was him that tipped the ball, and then Wyatt got the interception and, took it back as far as he could.
Heck, almost ran it back.
I know. The only thing I feel bad about, and I found out later, his mom did not realize it was him the whole time. Like, she was cheering, and then she didn't know why Wyatt was flexing and doing all the stuff after, and only later did she find out it was her son that did that.
That's funny. So the turnovers were a big deal. The 2 defensive turnovers. I mean, what did you like about those turnovers? I mean, the one you just mentioned, but
we're playing well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's when you get into league and you play your virgins and your mappas and your Pahrumps, like everybody gets up for each other. You're going to get a good quality opponent when you play them because they want to beat the other, old school 3A teams. And it's, we played good. There's nothing, we didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was a good game,
Yeah. Let's talk about maybe something we did do wrong, and I don't know if we did or not. Can't wait to hear your opinion on this. But we had a play. It was on the other sideline, so it was hard for us to tell from fans what was going on. But your player jumped in the air. We got drilled. The quarterback, I think, on the other team tackled him into the ground. It was a horrible tackle. It was ugly. Our team came to his defense. I mean, punches were thrown. It seemed like what happened there?
There's not a ton of video on it that can clearly see because it's so far away on the other side of the field and stuff like that. But our Noah got an interception, had a great run back. Their quarterback tackled him, kind of drove him out of bounds, and once they were out of bounds, lifted him up and kind of not suplex because he went forward instead of backwards. But no, and our kids were right there to kind of get involved and protect Noah and did what they should have done. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem we had is that kind of 4 of the 6 plays prior to that, everything had gotten chippy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We got the penalty where, Brody started pushing the kid at the middle of the field and swung at him, and then Brody gets ejected earlier than that. Then there was, I forget what the next back and forth little penalties were. Then they throw an incomplete pass and we get a penalty for doing this stuff out of bounds. So it's another 15-yard penalty. I think that sort of thing escalated us to the point that our guy got ejected during that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think if that whole little scuffle kind of happens without the other things, I don't think anybody gets ejected. I think they just kind of separate and they throw the penalties and we go about our way. But we had made stupid mistakes leading up to it. Now, this is that weird, where it's kind of a double-edged sword is, we want the kids to not back down. We want the kids to, you get punched in the mouth, punch them back, all right? But that doesn't mean actually punch them back. You know what I mean? It's we get up and go. And, it's the same thing, they say all the time, the second guy always gets in trouble. Every single incident on there, they did something first, and you can see it on the video and with Brody, like their guy did something, but then Brody reacted. Their guy tackled Noah out of bounds, Hobbs reacted. You know what I mean? And like we got what we always talk about, the second guys always get caught.
Yeah. Okay. What's it mean for the team? Because I hear that when you're ejected, you miss a game. What's the ramifications here?
Both of those guys are out this week, so we don't have them. And it definitely hurts because they've both been playing great, and it's both of our. We've got 3 defensive ends that kind of work in, and there are 2 of them. So we're down a guy. We're going to move some people around a little bit. Jolton Swoop came in at the end of the game, and he honestly played great. It's tough to come into a defensive end position on a team that runs zone read, where you kind of have to stay home, do your job, then make the play. And him never really playing it and then being thrown in. He got beat a couple times on that, but he was being aggressive and he played fantastic for the circumstances.
Zone read, what's that? Break that down a little.
So quarterback will get the ball and the running back's going to come and get a handoff, and you kind of ride the ball in the running back's stomach with the quarterback's eyes on the defensive end. And if the defensive end stays home, you give the ball to the running back. If the defensive end comes down hard, the quarterback pulls it and goes around the end. So that's their kind of bread and butter of their offense. So when you get a brand new defensive end in, you definitely take advantage of that as much as possible.
They took advantage of that.
100%.
Gotcha. Biggest lesson learned or things you want the players to take away from that game?
It was a hard-fought game. Yeah. It was a good game, and it might not seem like it, like when we lost to Clark and it was 28-21. It was a one-score game. It was a one-score game, and I take away, my big thing is, at one point, and I kick myself for this, kind of throughout the week, we could have kicked a field goal possibly at one point.
Yes.
And we kind of sent the field goal team out there, and Cash is really good from 40 yards. Anything past 40 yards, it's a little hit or miss. And I thought we were a little bit closer. So I was like, all right, field goal team, let's go. And then when they started going out, I quickly did the math, and I was like, and we were on the far hash, which isn't bode well for us. That kicks a little bit longer. And I was like, never mind. Now, taking it out where we didn't even give him a shot to put up some points, maybe that's different because then we kick a field goal later. Now it's 9-7, and maybe they do some different stuff and we stop them. You know what I mean? But that's one of those that that'll stay with me. Like, should we have done that or not? You know what I mean? But it is what it is.
Well, like you said, Cash not comfortable with those over 40-yarders.
Yeah, I mean, he's comfortable with them
in practice.
I'm not.
Okay, yeah, okay, yep. There was another decision too. I think if it take me back to where we kicked a field goal, I think for our second points on the board instead of going for the touchdown.
Right.
Remember that play?
Yeah. No. And that was again. It was like, let's get points. I think we're going to stop them.
Got us within 3.
We've just got to get there. You know what I mean? And I felt like we had the opportunity to come back and get in that range again. It was 14-6. It's a 1-score game. And we on that last drive again we didn't start off great, but then we got a first down, and then on that last play when we needed it hit our guy in the hands, and we didn't have it, and who knows what happens after that.
Was it a hard game to coach, do you think, or no harder than others?
No harder than others. Yeah. I think it gets into a little bit where it takes you out of the game where all of a sudden you need to worry about kind of everybody's behavior. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah. Where it's not just going out to do stuff, and then we lost 2 guys that are pretty important parts to both the offense and defense. So then you need to make adjustments off of that. But it's, you're constantly, I find myself in games like that, especially after everything that happened, where we're calling a play and whatever happens, but I'm scanning, looking to make sure nobody else is doing anything. And then, as a coach, then you're starting to get on the guys to hey, ease up, back up. But it's not, you don't want them to back up in between, but as soon as the whistle's blown, you need to stop. You need to walk away, and I feel like it turns into a little bit of kind of being like a kindergarten teacher where shut your mouth, shut your mouth. You know what I mean? And our kids talk and jaw the whole time. We are grade A smack talkers, and we need to know when to shut it down and just play, and when you can kind of get out there and let it rip.
Yeah.
And at that point, we needed to shut up and play, and it's just hard kind of, you go into parent mode of stop it. You're going to go to your room,
Yeah. Post-game speech, was it angry, fired up? Was it
No, it really wasn't angry. You know, they beat us, and it was a good game. More bummed about losing the kids going into the playoffs. But the thing, we kind of talked to the kids about was we're 5-5. This is not a bad season. Yeah. Now we get into the playoffs where every single thing we do matters. It's the preparation this week. It matters because we've got to win this week. I know it's very easy because we beat Democracy before that. Oh, we've got this game. Well, no, they're still going to show up and play, and this is where it's fun. This is where you kind of do some things that you haven't done all year to kind of give it a new wrinkle. And I think we've done a pretty good job with that, offensively this week. I think we added a few things last week on defense that worked out well for us. And then, and then obviously working in the new guys to play defensive end.
And is that because they know you? So you have to mix things up?
Yeah, it's a little bit because of that. Yeah. And I think it's just, you got to leave it all on the table now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is, for all of the kids, you've got to go 100% on every play because it could be your last, and for those seniors especially, who knows if you're ever going to get a chance to, put on a helmet again and stuff like that, that it's just, everything's bigger in the playoffs, and it doesn't matter who you play. It's, and I'll kind of talk to the kids about this later in the week and probably before the game, we're playing Democracy Prep, who we beat, but they don't want their season to end. Mm-hmm. It's different when it's week 6 and that next week we've got so-and-so. You know what I mean? It's very different when it's, after practice tomorrow, is tomorrow the last time we're out on the field practicing? Right. You know what I mean? There's a whole different added kind of
imagine
juice to
if it was you guys playing a team that you had already lost to and you didn't, if the tables were turned.
Right, and hopefully we win, we get that opportunity. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's a little bit of a mind game for even the team that won because it's very easy to slide into the, we got this. We got these guys. And if that other team doesn't believe that too, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, so before we talk about democracy prep, I wanna go back to something we kind of talked about last week, and you mentioned a program, and we're building a program, and obviously I can see that with my third grader who's in the program, and the peewees, and my freshman who's in the program, and you are building more than a team. You're building a program, and this past week we saw that. I think really shine a light on that. So, you've talked all season long about building a program, not a team. What does it mean to you, and how do you want people in Boulder City to understand the difference between a program and a team?
And that's actually a really good question, because I think the two get like intermixed, often. And like that, to me, at least, there is a very clear difference between the two. Each year you have your team. Each year, your team is the guys that make up the varsity and where they kind of fit and doing all that stuff. In terms of like building the program, and that's something that you've heard it, a lot of people have heard it and talked about it. And I consider the program literally from those young third graders all the way through the 12th graders right now. It's getting everybody on board to doing the same kind of thing. I think a program is successful when everybody is bought into the same shared common good, and you kind of eliminate the playing for the individual good. You're playing for the common good, and that's for us and for me. And what that means for these guys, I just talked to the JV guys that kind of decided not to come up with a varsity this year, that like, you're a part of the program now. You are a football player for the next 4 years here at Boulder City High School. And that doesn't mean you just show up on May 29th when football starts and you start to lift weights and do football then. There's more to it. There's the hard work. There's the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we haven't been good at doing in the past. That, last year we kind of emphasized the weight room and stuff like that. And we had plenty of people that bought into it. And you can tell, and I can tell, the people that bought into it in the off season. There were plenty that showed up but didn't buy in. And I don't say anything. I don't call guys out, but I see it and I notice it. And that translates then into the fall of like where we're at, and we want everybody to be involved and doing the hard things, doing the things that are hard when nobody's around watching, because that's what makes things easy when you're out there on a Friday night and everybody is watching. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. And it's just really getting everybody on board and understanding that there's got to be some sacrifice to being successful. I think in the past and just this day and age, it's not like Boulder City kids. I think just this day and age, like, people want all of that accolades and all of the success and all of that, but none of the hard work, and one of the things I've talked about with the coaches that I want it to mean something. I want it to where not everybody can play football for Boulder City High School. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that in a bad way, like you can't play. It means it took something. It took some effort on your part. It took some commitment. It took some accountability. It took all those things that not everybody can do, that you ask other people to do, and they're like, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. I don't want those guys. I want the guys that are all in, that are there to work every single day to get better. And that's what breeds success. I think that's what you get at Moapa and Virgin and those places. They have a program. I told the younger kids also this week that, I met with Virgin and Moapa and Pahrump coaches, for the all conference stuff this week, and really started talking to the Virgin guy. And it's the first time I've really like sat down and talked with him. Like, it's always been like handshake, hey, how you doing? But he shared some things with them. Their kids lift at least 5 days a week, all together. Doesn't matter what other sports they're playing, doesn't matter anything. They come and lift together 5 days a week, all year long. Mm-hmm. And there's no, guys don't miss because they don't want to. Guys miss because they're sick here and there. But there's accountability. If Joe Schmo doesn't show up on Tuesday, one of his friends calls Tuesday morning, where are you at? Why aren't you here? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's that sort of thing. And like, you see how that pays off. And we've talked about it a bunch of times, how we've closed the window there a little bit. We're not as far away as we were 2 years ago with that. But that's what it takes. We lifted 3 times over the summer. Mm-hmm. There's a reason we did 3 times. We got to kind of build up to it. We lifted 2 days a week with the varsity during the school year. There's a reason it was only 2 days a week. We got to build up to it. You know what I mean? But like each step, and I told those, especially those freshmen that were there, that like each year it's going to be a little bit harder to be in the program. It's not just, show up and you get the jersey on Friday nights.
Okay, so last week there was some negative comments from parents directed at players. I'm sure you heard about this, but it was pretty evident up in the stands. I will say that 99% of our fans are pretty awesome, but it was a little painful to hear some of that happening. There was just things that just didn't make you feel good if it was your kid out there playing. And I know. Actually, from being a JV, from having my son on JV, I will also tell you that people didn't know I was the father of a quarterback, and people were yelling at him, and I'm sitting right there, and it's a weird thing. But how do moments like that impact the unity and confidence of a team, and how do you address that moving forward?
So here's what I'm going to say. This is going to be a little bit of a long answer here, and I feel like there's people, we all know who those people were. Everybody knows. Yep. People in the stands know. I know. I'm hoping that somebody that's watching this makes sure that this segment gets sent to them as well, and they kind of know where I'm coming from. But you want to know how that affects the team? I will tell. It's a cancer. It's an absolute cancer. And I think early in the year, we had a really good thing going. And then we got a few hiccups and some speed bumps. And we played teams that are just better at us than football. And that's something that happens multiple times a year. You know what I mean? Like, you're just going to play teams that are good at football. And when that happened and kind of we got the short end of the stick on a few things, you could tell that things changed within the team. There became a little bit of divisiveness and stuff like that. And I think Friday night became very clear to me that a lot of that stuff is starting at home. And we're not getting buy-in from everybody. And that's what it takes to be good, is you need buy-in from everybody. It's not just the players. It's the family. It's the school. It's the fans that don't have anybody involved. You've got to have that buy-in and that support. And, it became clear around then that, there's a one-to-one correlation of like who's the loudest in the stands and how that affects those kids at school or on the team. And, you hear it, and, that those kids are hearing that stuff kind of at home at the dinner table and stuff like that. And they're young, impressionable kids. And then that carries over to the way they interact in the locker room and on the field and things like that. And it's just, it's not okay. It's almost like not trying to turn this into some crazy political thing, but like it's that radicalization of like, this is the belief, and it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily what's happening, and when it comes to the people in the stands, one of the things that I always talk about, like when I took the job, I kind of signed up for the fact that like, I know people are going to be very angry at me. There's going to be people that love me and people that are very angry at me. And that's a sliding scale depending on what the score is on Friday night. You know what I mean? I know that happens. And I've learned, and it's something that I read that I think about often, that like, I'm not willing to take criticism from somebody that I wouldn't take advice from. And are those people I'm taking advice from? Not really. So what you're saying kind of just, it brushes off my shoulder. But that's me, and I'm different with it, when we talk about the people that are out there kind of saying horrible things that really are not okay, and I think that needs to be made clear, they are not okay. And I think the things that I heard, it's, a lot of people heard, and there's a lot of lost respect due to those comments. And it's just, it's not all right, and I want people to know that that's not all right.
Yeah.
And, we as coaches, like I said, we are in it. For the parent that gets upset that's in the stands from 7 o'clock to 10:30, and it's the worst thing in the world is what we're doing and the plays we're calling. Understand that, like, we're really busting our butts. When it's on a weekly basis, I think myself and the coaches, conservatively, I'd say I put in about 30 hours worth a week for football. And you might sit there and be like, oh, that's not a lot. I'm not Nick Saban. I'm not Bill Belichick, and we're a 3A high school football team. 30 hours is quite a bit, and that's with all of our coaches having full-time jobs that aren't football coaches. That's with, for me personally, it's doing the Bear stuff. We've got baseball stuff going on. Yeah. It's, I've got a family and a wife.
Football.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've got a family and a wife that I like to be around. So we put in the time, and we do all the things. And to hear the things that then, we're trying to prepare the kids to play the best they can. And I'm going to put this into super simple. We are, every play, a kid, 14 to 17-year-old kid, comes over to the sidelines, and I tell him a series of words that don't really mean much to anybody else, but it means something to him. And then that kid runs out into the middle of the field and tells 10 other kids, all right? Now I'm focusing on the offensive side of the ball. Tells 10 other kids those series of words. And then those kids have to process what we're going to do. And then they break the huddle, and they line up, and they've got to figure out how to do what we ask them to do. And in the meantime, and we're really good at that. But then what throws a wrench into it is that there's these other 11 kids that show up on the opposite side of the ball from us. And like they show up on a bus, they wear different colors than we do, and they practice all week as well, that then they try and stop us. And sometimes they have better football players than us. Sometimes they're better prepared for something we're going to do. And then we go out and compete to the best of our ability. And knowing and hearing what you hear in the stands of, again, if it's directed towards me, hallelujah. Keep saying it. You should understand that it goes into a void because it's just noise. But when you say it to the kids and about the kids, like, what kind of person are you?
Yeah.
Like, really, what kind of person are you? Because you're saying that about a kid there, and you're saying it loud enough in those little stands that we have that kid's mom and dad can hear it. Their brothers and sisters can hear it. Their girlfriends can hear it. Their grandparents can hear it. Everybody can hear the opinion you have of a kid. And do you get to say that because you paid $5 to get into the game? Right. And like my thing that I go back and forth on too is you're saying that stuff, and I know who you are. And I know that if any one of those kids ever showed up to pickleball or golf or whatever you do as a former athlete to compete, and they said that stuff to you, you would lose your mind. Mm-hmm. And the amount of disrespect from those kids is just unheard of. But you get to do it because why? Mm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not fair. And these kids bust their butt, and they're kids. They are kids.
Got to remember that.
And if that's what you need to do to feel good about yourself, I feel bad for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's just not what we want. And that is a very, very, very small sample.
Yes.
There is,
99%.
The support that I heard from other people involved. I mean, it was 10-1 to everything that I heard this weekend. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not okay. And those people I feel bad for them.
Yeah. And you would have a meeting with a parent.
100%.
Right. So if there was something that somebody wanted to say about or to,
and here's the thing that
you're open to that.
Everyone wants to question what we're doing and all this other stuff. We sit at the meeting in the spring every year, and I open it up to every parent that's there and say, we need help. We need volunteer coaches. Over the years, I've had 3 that have said, I would like to coach. And all 3 of them, it's been a yes. Mm-hmm. Rufus Lockwood this year. Last year, we had Aaron Wellborn and Howie Hopkinson. It's not a problem. You can come out and help. And then all those things that we're doing wrong, you get to be down with us, and you get to help us make those decisions a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't, as much as people think it is, it's not a one-man show. Like, we work as a team, and like, we're kind of all on the same page in terms of the coaching staff. And then the other thing too is like when it comes to playing time stuff, like I've said forever, set up a meeting, talk to me about it. Yeah. Yelling it in the middle of the third quarter in week 10, I think that ship sailed, man.
Right.
And like, again, we've had, not that many kids want to do it, but I've had 2 of those meetings, and they've been absolutely awesome meetings. We had one last year and one this year, and I want to be open, and I have no problem telling you exactly why I've made a decision. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like, getting back to the program thing, I was very clear this year that we were turning the page and we were creating a program. And that led to us playing a lot of younger players and doing that sort of thing. And it's my decision, and it's mine alone, and I stand by it. And there's a reason why I'm doing it, and I firmly believe in it. Yeah, and I think that's something that you're going to see the fruits of in the future.
Yeah. And if you look ahead, those sophomores, juniors now, they're going to have to lead a program in the future. Those freshmen are going to have to understand that in 3 years, they're going to be leading a program with underclassmen
Right.
that are part of that program.
And and one of the things with like the way this kind of panned out this year, like I saw the potential for some issues early on, and I wishful thinking like this isn't going to happen. We're going to turn the page. Things are going to be different. Things are going to be better, and it didn't. And I've learned every year as a coach little things that I need to do to kind of change to put us more in the right direction, and like the mistakes of like leaning on kids this year that I shouldn't have, I've learned from that, and it'll never happen again. Like I promise you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because again, even to me, the idea and what the program can be is much bigger than just me. It's much bigger than any individual kid. Like I want it to be something special. I don't want it to be, Bubba's the football coach. Like I want it to be the Boulder City program. I don't care if my name gets mentioned in it. I want it to be us, and this is what we do.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I can see the passion and the energy behind this question that I asked, and you kind of knew that after last week's game it was going to be asked, but it really is such a small segment, and I won't even say a black eye. I mean, it's just a little scrape on
Right.
on the year,
Right.
because we've had a great season and we've been working since June, and
Right.
we're winning more than we're losing, and we're battling for 4 quarters, and we're in
100%.
every game, and these
100%.
kids are out there, giving it their all. So, make sure you take that away from this year.
Yeah. No,
There's
100%.
nothing negative about this year.
And the thing that like I am, and again, this is not like a throwaway for this year. Like I am super excited
Yeah,
about
let's go.
what's going on with the playoffs.
Right.
Like I told the kids kind of after the game Friday, like it's a new season. We get 1 week at a time to prepare. You've got to go 1-0 4 weeks in a row. That's a thing my dad used to say with some of his old teams. And it's just, we've got this week. And then if we win, we get a chance at somebody that kicked our butt, that looks at us like the little brother, and we've got some surprises up our sleeve. We've got better football to play than what they've seen us do, and I'm excited to come out, and more than anything, I want to shock some people.
Let's go. So
with the program too, and like again, it's not like the season is done. Like that's not the case at all. But it's so encouraging to see the buy-in from everybody that I know that is coming in the future, and everybody that's here that's there for the future too. It's the juniors and sophomores are great. We had 2 freshmen that were up that have bought in. I think the younger freshmen, like they know because they've been around and they know kind of what we want to do with it. And then, you look down at the Bear stuff, and like the 8th grade team had some struggles, but that's not a bad thing because most of those kids, it was their first year playing. I think they had like 2 or 3 kids on that roster that really had ever played before. You know what I mean? And then the 7th grade team is absolutely kicking butt, and those parents have completely bought in. And then the 5th and 6th grade, who I've coached a bunch of those kids with like baseball and stuff like that, they had a really good year, and those guys are bought in. And the 3rd and 4th grade parents, like we were in trouble when those 3rd graders get in, because those parents are like, those parents are more intense than I am.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
committed,
Like it's there, and it's super exciting to kind of see. And I really hope we're doing this show for years and years, because I think it would be fun to like look back and, we remember this episode and look back in 6-7 years, because I think we're looking at a completely different Boulder City football, and I'm here for it, and I can't wait to go through the entire ride.
Me too. Absolutely. We will be still doing this show, I'm sure. Okay, so democracy prep. Can we turn on to that now?
Let's turn on to those mofos.
This is awesome. So we democracy prep's record this year 2-6, 0-4 in the league. They lost last week 41-0 to Virgin Valley. They got Darren Phillips as a senior.
You've got bad information right there.
What happened?
They beat Meadows last week in overtime.
Okay.
So
0-4.
that's how we're going to play. So they're 1-4.
Okay. All right. Got it. 1-4 in league. All right. Anyway, we beat them. What was the score when we beat them? Do you remember?
I think it was 35-14, something like that.
We beat them on the road, or
we beat them at home.
Okay.
They actually don't play any home games this year.
No.
Their field was kind of a mess last year. There was a lot of complaints and stuff like that from everybody that involved that played there. So they played every game this year on the road. So their games that were scheduled as home games, they wore yellow jerseys. Their games that were scheduled as away games, they wore white jerseys. So, and I didn't realize that. I had seen a bunch of film where they were wearing yellow jerseys. So when we played them the first time, we wore our grays, and I was like, that'll be a good contrast between the gray and yellow, and it'll look good. And then they showed up in the white, and their coach had said like, no, this was supposed to be a away game, so we wear white. And I was like, man, because it was like the gray and white were a little too close to be able to tell. But
okay, so since we beat them, easy win, gave the guys the week off, playing all the younger kids this week.
Yeah, 100%. We after Friday, I was like, I'll see you guys next Thursday. We'll go. No, it's it's tough playing a team 2 times. One of the things that is always tough about Democracy Prep is you really don't know what you're going to get. They've got a new coach this year. They've got athletes that, have the opportunity to kind of break and make a big play at any time. And that's tough for any team. You know what I mean? Like, they've got speed. They've also got some really good size. The one thing that's hard on their defense is kind of a little bit all over the place. You know what I mean? Like, they don't do a lot of typical things that you would think, and it works for them because they've got athletes. So it's hard to I never feel comfortable preparing for them. You know what I mean? And like the first time we played them, it was tied 8-8 at halftime. And up until halftime, like I was really struggling calling plays. Like we couldn't get things to work right. And it was me, like I was off. And then at halftime, the line, we were able to actually like sit down with the line, and they explained what was happening, and what was happening looked very different to what I was seeing on the sidelines. So when we figured that out, then we came out and we marched right down the field. We ran the ball, we threw the ball, and we went down and scored, and then there was kind of no looking back after that. So,
and that's really my next question. What is the key to establishing an offensive rhythm early and setting the tone in this game?
We've got to be able to run the ball. And the games we've run the ball well, we've opened up everything. And I know I'm not a guy that I don't want to run the ball 50 times a game. It's just, to me, that's boring football. But I also understand that wins football games. So there's like the weird like give and take in my head all the time. But we've got to go out and run. And I will readily admit that I'm quick to give up on the run when it gets stuffed a couple times. And Bradshaw does a good job of kind of talking me back into it. Dunnigan will kind of do the same thing. Same with, well, not Parker. Parker, if it goes up to Parker, we'd throw every down. But, we kind of get into that groove, and we've got to go down, and we've got to get some first downs. We've got to put ourselves in third and manageable. A lot of times we'll run the ball okay, and then we'll run it 1 or 2 times in a row, and then we don't get anything, and now it's 3rd and 8, or worse, 3rd and 12 sticks. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we're not there that hurts every offense, and we kind of struggle. I feel like, we make little kind of stupid mistakes on those 3rd and longs that kind of hurt us, that like we should have gotten the first. It's just, we just want to avoid it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. On the defensive matchups, what are some important adjustments that you see to kind of match up with their key playmakers?
Their quarterback is really good. And like I said, they've got speed. He's a pretty decent quarterback. He doesn't run a ton, but he is mobile. When he played us, he's kind of shifty in the pocket, and will kind of get out of the pocket and take off a little bit, but he's not taking off running. He'll get 5 or 6 and slide and get down. I think he's a good athlete. I think the reason he does that is because our defense is so good, and we hit and we do all that stuff, because he didn't do that in a lot of other games. You know what I mean? So we've got to be able to contain them, and we've got to put them in situations where they've got to throw the ball. When they're very comfortable running as well, and if we can get them in those 3rd and longs that we don't want to be in, that's our benefit, you know?
How do you prepare your guys mentally to avoid complacency in a game like this?
I think the biggest thing this week was we practiced hard. Okay. You know what I mean? We didn't make a overblown statement about it being the playoffs and all this, and they know it's there. And we really just worked on the little things within the play. We didn't go into, because again, we're looking at since the official season started, this is like week 14. You know what I mean? We've done the individual time. We've done all that stuff working. So now it's just, this is our game plan. Let's execute it. Let's do what we're doing.
How do you practice hard? What's that mean?
We just go full. You know what I mean? Like, it's tackling. And, the coaches do a good job of, if kids are kind of half-assing it a little bit, of like, hey, we need more from you out of this. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to be a game speed. It's really easy it's practice, and you're going against the guys and stuff like that, where you just kind of like thud. And we were doing that for a little bit, and I always say that that's because of Otis Ruth, because he tackles everybody so low, and there was a stretch where we really only had one running back, and he tackled him super low and like hit his knees like 2 times in a row. I was like, all right, no more of that, like just regular. But now we've got everybody back, and we're back to hitting, and I think that showed really, like last week was the first week we had been back to hitting full speed, and our defense looked good. We weren't missing tackles, we were hitting, and we were doing our thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to a freshman who lives in my house after the first practice on Monday, and I asked him kind of what was the difference, and he said it was just like a 3-hour it was intensity. It was an intense practice. There was no fun and games.
And that's the hardest thing that like I think is the biggest jump for like those young kids coming up is JV practice. They're, I want them to have fun, and I'm hoping they're learning the game and doing all that stuff. But you don't even have 22 guys to go 11 on 11. Guys are constantly hurt and stuff like that, and you've got some kids in there that have really never played and they're just unsure about hitting. But like you get to a varsity practice and like we pretty much go 1s-on-1s, and it's a smidge less than game speed. You know what I mean? And it's different.
What are your non-negotiables this week that will decide the outcome of this game?
I think it's us being able to control the ball. That's going to be a huge thing that I am working on with the playoffs. It's control the ball, control the clock a little bit. We've got to get 1 or 2 first downs, whether we score points or not, 1 or 2 first downs every time we have the ball. And now, like, really having Cash back and getting back and feeling that, like, he's comfortable. Because, again, up until last week, like, I was still like, I know he's back, but, like, is he back? And that first field goal was good. Like I said, I second-guessed myself on the second one. And then the third one he made without a problem. Like, we've got the advantage of, like, if we get to the 15, we're going to get points, And I think, again, Cardi is a huge weapon that can pin them deep. And, for our defense, they're a team that if they've got to go, and even if they get a couple first downs, the longer we make them have to have the ball and produce, the bigger the odds they're going to make a mistake. You know what I mean? And, like, we've got to make sure that we put our defense in that position.
What message are you giving the fans, parents, and everybody for a playoff type environment? Haven't had one of these in a while.
This is one of those things that, like, it kind of bums me out. I'm not going to lie. And it has nothing to do with fans. So it's a Thursday night game. Thursday nights are weird. You know what I mean? Like, parents kind of have
like Thursday?
Fridays off, and they figure out their Friday schedule. And I've talked to a bunch of people. They're like, well, I've got to leave work early. I've got to do all this. It's weird, and thank God we're playing at 7 instead of 6 because that's even weirder. The other thing that kind of throws into it that really bums me out is it's a playoff game. So the NIAA whatever that is, they are in charge of the gate. So it is now $13 to get into the games. Yeah, $13 to come watch us play. $13 is almost enough money to be able to yell whatever you want from the stand. Almost. It's not, but it's almost enough money to be an ass in the stands. But, it's so like that stinks. And then it's before Halloween, and like there's people that are gone, and like we have this great, amazing, like packed house all these weeks in a row for senior night, for homecoming, for, all these different things. And then you get to the first playoff game and it's like $13 at the door. Also, a bunch of people left town because it's Halloween and they want to go trick-or-treating in California. You know what I mean? So be there and be loud, good loud. Be there and be supportive, because that's what these kids need. You know what I mean? Like, going back to what we talked about before, there's parents in the stands that just want to see their kid do the thing they love. And they don't want to hear the negativity, and nobody wants to hear the negativity. The kids don't want to hear your kid if you're yelling, and they don't want to hear you saying that stuff.
Right.
Get out there and be supportive. Be loud. Have fun. You know what I mean? Like, we've got the new speakers and they're playing music and doing all that. Get up and have a party. You know what I mean? Because no matter what, this is our last home game of the year. So come out and support, and then let's get a win and go up to Virgin and
is that what happens if we win?
If we win, more than likely,
we end up going to Virgin or Milwaukee.
We're in like the weird spot because we're the 4 seed. So the only way it would change is if Pahrump wins, then we go to Virgin. If Pahrump loses, then we go to Milwaukee.
Okay.
It's like a weird.
I mean, both very tough opponents, but I mean, we can't rule out.
No, not at all. And
winning the whole
and like
thing,
I said, the whole time, going into those games, there's stuff that they do that we can be successful with. It's just a matter of us going out and do it. Virgin's a prime example. You know, like they went down and scored right away. Okay, great. Well, guess what we did when we got the ball? We went down and scored. And then they went down and scored again really fast. And we got close and then made a mistake and then we didn't score. But like there's things we do. They're also high school kids.
That's right. They're also 15, 16, 17
You
years
know,
old.
it's
right.
You know, one of the things that goes on like all the time with us, like we've got kids that have bad days of practice. And then I talk to the kid a week later and it's, I did bad on my English test. My mom and dad are mad at me because I didn't clean up my room. I got home late. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they've got to deal with that stuff too.
Yep.
Hopefully Halloween, they all get into a little bit of trouble. Like that's our best case scenario. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay, great. Well, that's kind of a wrap on that part. Can we talk about Pee-wees or anything else you want to add? Okay.
Absolutely.
And just Pee-wees because our season ended and I want to thank you, for coaching my son for all those games and going to Utah every single weekend. And, the season ended. We have a bowl game in a week and that's awesome. We're going to play at home with the third graders. But, what stood out to you most about the progress of these Pee-wees throughout the year?
I will say, and we talked about it at length kind of on Saturday, and it was fun because my dad was there and he had seen them play earlier in the year and then coming back and seeing them play again. We lost, and I'm not going to lie, I blame myself. I didn't realize they had gone for 2 points.
Yeah.
Because, we lost,
I never
23. I didn't know the difference. I thought they were going for 1. I thought we were tied.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But that's what happens when you don't have a scoreboard. But this is by far our best game we played all year, and those kids from, we talked about it that first day when we put pads on, and I was like, let's see how this goes. And almost to a kid, there wasn't anybody that was afraid of making contact. There was nobody that was afraid of hitting. And they were just a blast to be around. And, the last game, the one that really sticks out to me is all of a sudden Brixton came in and started making hits and been waiting for it all year. And Jackson made a couple plays. Jackson Price, I think, or Curtis.
JJ?
No, not JJ,
Okay.
the other Jackson.
Okay.
But JJ did too.
JJ had a couple
You know what I
tackles,
mean?
yeah.
It was all these kids have put in the work and they've all become football players. Before they were just little kids that were trying out football.
Yep.
And I can say across the board, what do we have? 15 on the team?
Yeah.
14 or 15?
Yep.
They're football players
They
now.
are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so much that I'm looking forward to in the future with them because, that third grade group, that team is mostly third graders. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we've got some fourth graders, but that third grade group staying together and our boys are on that team. It's fun. And I know it's a pain to drive up to Utah and do all that stuff, but I enjoy it so much to see how much they like it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we've talked about it. And for me personally, the stuff with Zay, I was very interested to see him play tackle and some of the things he did this year completely off the field that nobody would really, me and you talked about with him just kind of taking over and
Leadership.
doing the leader thing. That to me is awesome. And those are the things that, and I'm not just saying it because it's Zay, but it really stood out. And I think you noticed it as well, that those are the things that are going to be good for the program in the future. And I've seen that with all the teams in the level. There's kids that are really stepping up and understand what it means to be a leader. And, with that little group, they've become friends and they stick up for each other and they hang out. And I think they are just as likely to win a state championship when they're in high school as they are to end up in jail one night altogether because they did something ridiculously stupid. It's a 50-50 with them.
Yep. I mean, how do you ensure that the youth program mirrors the same values as the high school program?
I think it's been easy because we've got the support of all the people involved. You know what I mean? I think James does a phenomenal job in getting us in the position to be successful, and all of the volunteers have kind of bought in and we're kind of growing with it. We ended up with one more team than we thought we were going to have tackle wise this year. And, we kind of had a plan going in and then we did it. And much like I was talking about with the high school coaching, we saw what happened and then there's things that I want to change for next year and nothing in a bad way all right, we did this. Now let's grow from it. You know what I mean? And let's grow and make that program a little bit better, and it's a cool thing. And me and my wife talk about it often that almost 4 years ago now, I kind of sat with her and I was like, I think we need to start this. You know what I mean? And it was something that came up on our couch and, okay, let's try and do this. And then finding James to take on such a huge role. And then all of the coaches, and like Red is one of those guys that's kind of been there from the beginning. And like, he's been great. And then moms that have been participating in like the flag and all that stuff, to be at a point now where like our program is known, and like the BC Bears, like it's a thing. Like, and I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but like we're the BC Bears because right before we started the Bears, we were talking about Zay's next season, and we had been like weird team names before, and Zay was like, we should be the Bears next year. And I was like, all right, I agree with that.
Done.
And then when we started the Boulder City stuff, it was like, well, what are we going to be? And I was like, Bears goes with it. Because this is another thing, drives me nuts. Boulder City Eagles. It doesn't go.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and it is what we are, and I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
But like, that's always like, before I was out here, I was like, why are they the Eagles? They should be like the Bears or the Bobcats. And then when I saw Garrett was the Bobcats, I was like, that makes sense. Boulder City Bobcats. And then people always correct me and they're like, they're the Garrett Bobcats. I'm like, then that actually makes no sense. You know what I mean?
Patriots has a good ring to it.
It does not. No,
at all.
never,
Okay.
never,
All right.
never.
All right, just throwing it out there. So yeah, I also want to give a quick shout out to the cheerleaders. I missed them one week, and at our home game, and Ollie Campbell, what an unbelievable job she's done with those little cheerleaders.
Yes.
I left that game a little early, and I didn't see the cheerleaders, and that's why I didn't mention them on the home game. Sorry, Ollie Campbell, you really let me have it one night, and you know,
Ollie, no way.
yeah, I really have to like.
No, she is
like,
so soft-spoken and would never say anything.
Campbell, 'cause she lit me up. I thought she was going to disown me, but then she hugged me the next week, so we're good. But
And I will say, I watched the cheerleaders from up in the press box that game, and obviously you weren't there, but for anybody that was there, it was windy that whole day, and I swear it was like gale force winds the moment those girls started performing. And at one point, and I thought it was like absolutely adorable, was like they put their pom-poms down, and they're like doing like a pyramid or, you know, something like that. And then they have to go back and get their pom-poms. But in the meantime, their pom-poms had all blown like 45 yards away. And it was
well, I have two boys in the program, so I want to thank you personally for everything you've done, and James Krakalici, the whole thing, because my boys wouldn't be playing football if it wasn't for the Bears and for the Pee Wees, and we weren't driving to Henderson to find some club team or something. Just wasn't our thing. So thank you for doing that. That's kind of all we have for the show. Anything you want to wrap up with, or
no? It's you know, it's do or die. You know what I mean? And it's fun, and you know, like I said, come out and be supportive, and I think that goes a long way for everybody. And you know, that's what we want. We want to put on a good show for you guys, and we want you to come out and enjoy what we're doing, because the boys work hard, and they've worked hard for a long time. And you know, it's talking about like building the program, so it doesn't diminish anything that we did this year. These kids have worked harder than anybody's worked in a long time, and I want nothing but good things for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, we do have to go over the all-conference
Let's
stuff.
talk about that.
That's the one thing that I forgot. So
I actually forgot that.
we had our all-conference meeting. I'm going to pull it up really quick. I know this show is way longer than normal, but there's a lot of stuff to cover.
This is important.
So we do our all-league meeting, and the one thing that I think people need to understand about this is, as you go as a coach, you nominate players at different positions, and there's a first team and a second team. That's it. So you're either the best or second best, pretty much. And
what's it called? First team All-American?
No,
All-Conference?
It's all league, I think they call it. Like back home, it was all conference. So I kind of slip and I use both terms. But we sit and we meet as coaches, and you kind of put up your guys and you talk about stats. And
so these are the kids in the 3A that the
3A
coaches
are
nominate.
Right.
And league-wide.
Right, and all the coaches kind of vote on it, and you're not allowed to vote for your own guy. So if you get a guy on there,
so you vote for other players.
Yes, I can't. When I put up a guy, then I'm not allowed to, in the voting process, I'm not allowed to say, yes, my guy. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So last year we had 2 guys on the all-conference team, first team all-conference. We had a couple second teams, but only 2. This year we ended up with 4 guys on the first team. And our first team guys were Anthony Ebby at wide receiver, Gavin Cartier was first team punter 2 years in a row.
Wow.
All right, so that's awesome. Cam Matthews was first team linebacker, and Chase Jappy was first team cornerback. And then our guys that we got on the second team, Cohen Burrows was second team running back. Gavin Cartier was second team wide receiver, so he got 2. Brandon Hobbs was second team tight end. We had 2 linemen make the second team, Trey Adams and Carson Singer. Cody Ayton was second team defensive line. Otis Ruth, second team linebacker. And Aiden Armstrong, second team safety.
Very cool.
So it's awesome. And like the thing is, like you sit and talk, and it's a proud moment for me when I put up a guy and you hear one of the other coaches go, "Oh, I remember that kid. We had to do this for," you know what I mean? And it's nice to know that our boys get recognized. It's fair because we do that to other teams, and it's fun to hear at those meetings. Everybody's kind of thoughts on us and our kids and stuff like that.
I bet
it's really interesting. So I am super proud of those boys, and that's something that we got, and it shows. And like last year we didn't win a league game, and we only had 2 kids. And this year, going 5-5, we had 4 kids on the first team. And again, it's a lot of stuff that we missed out on. Like you get a little bit more say if you're first or second in the league, and that's our goal for the future. You know?
And
again, this is all. I mean, how many of these guys? Hold on, I'm gonna see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those guys are coming back next year.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's awesome, and that bodes so well for the future.
So congratulations to those guys. That's pretty amazing. Coach, thanks for every week coming in and doing this. We're going to keep doing it until you lose, so a few more weeks.
Hopefully
right.
we're here till Thanksgiving.
That's right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Appreciate you coming in, giving us time. Always, it's a busy week getting ready for these games, so thanks for your time. Boulder City Eagle Nation, Thursday night, not Friday night, Thursday night, we are coming out to the Boulder City High School football field to watch the Eagles kick some butt.
Here's another thing that we're throwing out there.
Yeah.
All right.
What we got?
Idea stuff. All right. So it's Bruce Eaton Field.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
All right. We want to start referring to it as the Nest.
Okay, I like that.
Come to the Nest.
Come to the Nest.
Yeah.
And I might just stand on the outside in the parking lot. There's a place you can see the game, and I don't have to pay the $13. So
that's like $8.
Oh, is it really?
I'm gonna have Zay walk around and collect money from people.
$13, man. Start saving my money. But again,
you've got so many kids. You got to pick like.
I know.
At least Jack will be there.
We're gonna draw
so
names.
We're good.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I'm gonna charge the JV guys a little extra money.
Okay, that's great. Eagle Nation, that's a wrap on the Coaches Show this week. We will be back next week. We're going to do it again on Tuesday night due to the schedule of this great studio that we're in, and Don Rodriguez and BCSN hosting us year after year. We really, really appreciate that, Don. And with that, that's a wrap. We'll see you Thursday night.
Thank you.
All right.